We who write poetry often dream that our words will bring us immortality. Well, I'm going to give you tonight one man who did achieve immortality and still has it. And I wonder if from this quote you might recognize him. Be eloquent in praise of the very dull old days which have long since passed away, and convince him, if you can, that the reign of good Queen Anne was culture's palmiest day. Any takers? How about this? I am the very model of a modern Major General. I've information animal, vegetable, and mineral. I know the kings of England, and I quote the fights historical from Marathon to Waterloo in order categorical. I see some eyes opening. Maybe this will convince the rest of you. When I was a lad, I served a term as office boy to an attorney's firm. I washed the windows and swept the floors and polished up the handles on the big front door. I polished that handle so carefully that now I am the ruler of the Queen's Navy. I hear the pennies dropping. I am presenting you with William Schwenk Gilbert. The Schwenk, of course, being Germanic, as much of England was under Victoria. W.S. Gilbert is set aside today by many as simply a lyricist for Arthur Sullivan, and further dismissed as the great rhyme meister. Oh, how 18th century. And the label sticks. The man was a master of single, double interior rhymes, 2- and 3-word rhymes. He knew the English language inside out and backwards, and he reveled in it. But the critics say he did rhyme. Gilbert was born in 1836, the very year Victoria came to the throne. Now, Gilbert came to theater when it was a base kind of music hall where certain gentlemen came to browse and carouse among the birds in a gilded cage. But Gilbert was convinced that theater should be a home for proper people. He argued publicly for the symbolic 15-year-old girl who sits in the dress circle, charming, sensitive, gentle, modest. It is, he said, with reference to its suitability to the eyes and ears of this young lady that the moral fitness of every original English play is to be gauged. It must contain no allusions that cannot be fully and satisfactorily explained to this young lady. It must contain no incident, no dialogue that can by any chance summon a blush to this young lady's innocent face. The likes of Alexandre Dumas and the rest of the French with their affairs and extramarital doings were inappropriate. Gilbert invented the role of director in the theater. His roles were to be played exactly as he dictated and in no other way. Even during long runs, he would check up to see that there were no liberties being taken. In rehearsals, he stood beside the actor and made sure that posture, gesture, movement, and even vocal intonation was exactly as he wished. The American thinker H.L. Mencken once posited that it was Gilbert and Gilbert alone who paved the way on the English stage for both Oscar Wilde and Bernard Shaw. And withal, he was a rhymester. And yet today, in every major city almost worldwide, the plays of Gilbert, and Sullivan of course, are being mounted repeatedly. England has an annual international festival of those remarkable operettas. Gilbert became and is still known as the monarch of topsy-turvy. His plays didn't stop at turning the world on its ear. He turned it upside down and emptied its pockets. In Trial by Jury, for example, an ambitious and opportunist young man agrees to marry the judge's ugly daughter to further his career, and he sings, She could very well pass for 43 in the dusk with the light behind her. In the denouement of the Pirates of Penzance, we find the entire policeman's chorus on its back on the floor. And on each chest is a pirate's boot, and at each throat is a pirate's sword. And the sergeant of police calls out, "In the name of the Queen, surrender!" And the pirates bow to the Queen and are led off. Now this scene occasioned an anecdote that may be apocryphal, but it's a charming piece of Victoriana. She is said to have sent a note backstage after this scene reading, "We are not amused." In The Mikado, a criminal condemned to death is released from prison and made Lord High Executioner with this strange proviso, that he cannot mow any man's head off until he's mown his own off. There are myriad reasons why Gilbert continues to delight modern audiences: the wonder of his wit, his mastery of language, and his undying relevance to our daily lives. Look around at what surrounds us politically today and consider this snippet from HMS Pinafore. "I always voted at my party's call, and I never thought of thinking for myself at all." Doesn't that have a certain Odo about it? Gilbert is quoted thoroughly and usually without accreditation because the quotes have become so much a part of our language. Things are seldom what they seem. Make the punishment fit the crime. And believe it or not, love makes the world go round. And if you'd like to enjoy more than I have time to give you here, rent the 1999 film, double Oscar winner, titled, interestingly enough, Topsy-Turvy. W.S. Gilbert, 1836-1911. Thank you.